Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and I'm back with another movie review. Now this movie was brought to me by Tubi, and they just basically released this like a couple of days ago, and it's called Rock the Boat, starring Parker McKenna and Zanique, and Cynthia Bailey. So, and Jarrell Haunton, J Boog from B2K. So let's get into it. So it starts off with this couple. They're driving somewhere and they're talking about going on to this yacht or whatever. And they was like, I'm so happy we're doing this. I'm so excited and stuff like that. I'm glad we're doing this together. And next you know, there's a crash and they both die. So we fast forward to like 10 years later. There's this girl, her name is Millie, and then she has her friend Sophia, and they're in college or whatever. So they have this dorm room or whatnot. So they wake up and they're supposed to be getting ready for this celebration party. Come to find out, Millie got a job working at Weber Tech, and they all throwing her a little party. And she gets to the club. Wait, is it even a club? No, it's a yacht. It looked like a club, but they all get to the yacht. And they have a few celebrational drinks. So it's her friends, Bree, Terry, Chanel, Summer, Sophia, and Millie. Those are the friends. They all go to the same college. And, you know, they was like, listen, I'm all for the celebration. Chanel said, I'm all for the celebrational drink. But, you know, it's all about the boys. And then their friend Bree was like, listen, I don't drink. I'm trying to save myself for marriage and whatnot. So Chanel took her and walked her over to like, listen, go have some fun. So as they was all leaving to go enjoy themselves at the party, Terry took a extra shot or whatever. Then she went to go mingle. And then as they was walking through on the yacht, her boyfriend at the time, her boyfriend Caleb was trying to talk to her as if he didn't know her. And then she was like, thank you for all of this, and gave her a kiss. And then next, you know, one of their friends came up to them, Lewis, and he was like, listen, how dare you let him get to you before I can get to you? And she was like, listen, you're a little too bad for me, so it is what it is. So as they were doing so, Lewis walked off and was like, thank goodness for him. He was like, yeah, thank goodness for me. He ended up bumping into this guy. And was like, oh, I'm sorry for bumping into you. So they went on about their party or whatever. Next thing you know, like towards the, Sophia and Millie, they got a chance to talk to Caleb. And Caleb was like, listen, I have the key to the master suite. And Sophia was like, go ahead, y'all go do your thing. And keep everybody up to date and stuff like that. Hold it down for a year till you guys get back. It was like, okay, cool. So they went downstairs to the master suite. You know, I guess they did their thing. She kissed him. She was like, thank you for all of this. And then she also told him, like, I know it's you that put in a good word for me to get Weber Tech the job. And he was like, nah, that was all you. He was like, listen, okay, maybe I had a little bit. I told him how good you was and stuff like that. So she was like, yeah, thank you for that. So they ended up going back upstairs because they heard a scream. Come to find out, Lewis fell into the jacuzzi and he's dead. So now the cops come and they investigate and they try to see what was going on, and nothing gets to that. So I think it's like the next day or whatever, his brother Adam, he's taking a shower because they're all on the swim team, and he's taking a shower. Next, you know, he ends up passed out and nobody knows what happened. And then Caleb and the other friend Timmy was talking to them and was like, listen, this is what happened, stuff like that. So the detectives, Jacob and Daniels, they find a drug in his locker room. And it was just like, what a coincidence. Like they're both brothers. How they both die with drugs in their system. And Caleb and Timmy was like, listen, we're on the swim team. We cannot we can't have drugs because we get tested every week. So why would he do that? He's all anti-drug. Only drug he really takes is Tylenol. And that's just what it is. So now the detectives were like, that really doesn't make no sense. So they went to go talk to the coach. And I guess the coach told them the same thing that Timmy and Caleb told them. And it was just like, So now it's like a few days later. Millie wakes up in the dorm and she goes to the bathroom. She finds on the mirror is written, "Dear Diary, it was an accident." And so now they call the police and they trying to figure out what was going on. And it was just like, So they was trying to be sarcastic with them. And then Sophia told them what the Ripper was like. Listen, if there's any problem, we can just, call you. We can just think it was a mistake. They're calling you. It was like, well, you called us. But it was like, well, whatever. If you don't like it, you can leave. So they leave. So now it's the next couple of days. Bree decides she's going on a date, and it was like, She was like, don't wait up for me. So I guess some of the girls share a room with Bree. So then she was like, don't wait up for her. So she goes to leave. A few seconds later, they hear a scream, and there was someone was like, what is that? She gets up and she sees Bree's at the bottom of the stairs, and they're like, call 911. So then they call 911. The 10 detectives came out to the scene, and it's just like, what a coincidence, how all this stuff is happening and don't nobody know what's happening. And then, the girls were like, listen, they had to, stand their ground of what happened and stuff like that. So now, we got Lewis, Adam, Bree, and the scary note on the mirror in the dorm room. And it's just like, well, make it make sense. And now at this time, they go to speak to Sophia's Uncle Rob. He owns a pizza shop downtown. So he invites them over. He was like, listen, the detective's been coming in here talking to us about what happened with your friends or whatever. So now at this time, Terry's decided she wants to go home because now she's scared of what's happening. And they was like, well, let's all stay together tonight and we'll figure it out in the morning. So by this time, they get free pizza or whatever. But by this time, they're all there. Then the next day, Terry decides she's going home. So they all walk her out and stuff like that. So they all made a pact that they're going to stay together. So Terry's driving. She leaves and whatnot. She gets about, I'll say, a few miles away from the school or whatnot. And she almost ran this little girl over while driving because come to find out her brakes were cut. She crashes into a pole and she dies. So now they really on edge talking about, listen, let's stay together. So they end up going to, I think, somebody else's room, and they also get in contact with Caleb and Timmy to find so that they can make sure everybody's safe. So that was that. Long story short, because I don't want to keep boring y'all with the talking. Long story short, come to find out, let me see, Millie decides to go back home. Her boyfriend Caleb was like, listen, I'll be okay. I'll be here, okay? Let me know if you need anything. So she gets home. She talks to her Aunt Carol. And her Carol is a drinker. Come to find out, her and her husband Luke are no longer together. They filed for a divorce. And now she's having a drinking problem. And then Millie was like, why you didn't tell me about this? She was like, this is my problem, I don't think you need to be up in my bed. She was like, but still. And then she saw how drunk she was. She was like, So she got her plate of cookies and then walked with her pocketbook to her room. And she was like, you could have said thank you. And she was like, I'm glad you're here. She was like, thank you. So she goes, sets her cookies down. She starts looking at some stuff in her room. She hears the bottle clank. And then she goes back out to the living room and finds out her aunt. She done drunk the whole bottle. Now she's asleep. So she gets the cover and covers her up or whatnot. So now she goes to settle in to go take a nap. While she's taking a nap, she has this dream. It's her younger self going into the basement, finding out some stuff. And then when she gets down there, she's like, go. So she wakes up. And then she goes downstairs to the basement. She finds out why. It was a diary that she had. She was like, in the diary. So she finds it, and then she goes to talk to her Aunt Carol, and her Aunt Carol told her, like, listen, you don't need to know that it was a dark time for you. You was going through some things. And she was like, there's an address on the back. Some lady named Olga gave this to you. So she was like, okay, well, figure it out. So she goes to Olga's house. She goes looking around, and she has to see who's there. So she goes to walk on the side of the house, and nobody's there. So by the time she walks back, the door is open. So she was just like, she walks in and says, hello, hello, hello. Next thing you know, she starts looking around the lady's house. And before you know it, the lady standing in the back of her with a shotgun, like, boo. And then she was like, she's scared. But she was like, yeah, I know. It took you a while to get to me, Millie. So basically, Olga is the reason why she couldn't remember her past. So fast forward now, come to find out, Millie had a brother named Jalil. He was older than her. So I'm thinking at this time, Millie was like 14 and Jalil was 18. So they're like 4 years apart. So that makes sense. So Jalil, her brother, was behind the whole ordeal of all her friends dying. And you want to know why? He broke into Aunt Carol's house and found the diary and read everything that was going on in it. He was like, makes sense now. So, come to find out, Olga told her that when she was younger, she basically wrote down that everybody that was involved with her parents' case and whatever, they had children that was all the same age as her. And she was going to make it her mission to, get revenge so that she could avenge her parents' death. Come to find out, all them kids, their parents were behind in the case of their parents' death. So Jalil took it upon himself to act out on what Millie wrote in her diary and bring it to life. So now is the cops, the detectives done figured it out. So now that they already know they're looking for, so they go back to Uncle Rob's pizza shop, and they was like, where are they? They was like, well, she's out on a yacht at Weber Tech, and it was like, oh, makes sense. So now they get there. So now they come to find out Jalil's on the boat as well. Jalil was there the whole entire time. They played it back, showing that he was there in every instance, and that makes sense. So now they're on the yacht, and he ends up seeing Millie. He ends up strapping a bomb to her body, and he has a detonator button in his hand, and he was like, yeah, this is all of you. So how does this make sense? So there was an accident that happened, and they flash back to the accident. So come to find out, when Caleb was younger, he stole his dad's car, and he ended up crashing into Millie's parents at the time. And then there was 2 bystanders that called, and they kind of brushed it over the rug. Come to find out, everybody's parents had a hand in the thing. So Caleb's dad is the company. You got Sophia's mom. She was supposed to be the accountant to help get their family paid, so that way both Millie and Jalil will be set for life. Then you have Bree's parents were the ones that was outside, and they saw the whole thing, and they kind of brushed it off. Then you have Terry's mom. She was the judge. Then you have, who else was I missing? Chanel's parent, my mom or dad, they was Timmy's dad was the attorney. He basically took his money and was like, let them leave them with nothing. And the other two kids' parents were somewhere along with the working at Weber Tech. So all of them were Weber Tech employees in some form or fashion, and they was working with the justice system. So basically, they just swept their whole case under the rug and left them 2 kids to fend for themselves. So Jalil, since nobody wanted him, he's been in and out of group homes and stuff like that. He had to grow up on the streets, so he had a hard life compared to Millie. And then Aunt Carol and Luke, they used all their money for their attorney. So basically, they was left with nothing. So basically, they were basically left to fend for themselves. So that was that. So Caleb, I guess, apologized for what happened because he was young at the time. He was a young kid. So basically, he got a slap on the wrist. So his dad didn't want a lawsuit about that. So he was like, whatever, just sweep it under the rug. So now him and Jalil get into it, and they try to fight for the detonator button to get off. While that's happening, both Summer and Sophia, they go over to where Millie is, and they try to take the bomb off of her. Them 2 get into it, and that once they do that, they end up leaving. So Millie goes to stop her brother from fighting Caleb, and he ends up knocking her out over on the side of the boat. So now Caleb and Jalil going back and forth on the detonator the button. So they're fighting back and forth, going on tables and stuff like that. Caleb ended up knocking Jalil out. He ends up getting Millie up off the ground with the and then they end up hopping into water. The boat blows up. Come to find out, she gets to the hospital. She now has amnesia, and they're all there trying to support her. Whatever. They was just like, dang. They said she's not gonna come back from this. She got permanent memory loss. You know what happened the last time. So now they're trying to keep this to the grave. But that Caleb, he's responsible for it all. It's he's still about to live his life and not take consequences for his actions, because if it wasn't for him, none of that would have happened. So supposedly they said that Jalil died, but who knows? It looked like there might be a part 2 to this movie because that was really interesting. It was crazy. Like, her own brother did all of this so he can seek revenge for their parents. So, yeah, it was crazy how it ended, but it was just like, yeah, it got to be a part 2 to this. So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this recap. Y'all check it out on Tubi. It's called Rock the Boat. So, with that being said, I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.